In a world of seemingly endless podcasts comes what many would call another one. Welcome to the Two Men podcast with your hosts Tim Matson and Phil Powell. Now please join these two confirmed men, that's two moderately entertaining nerds, as they take you on another podcast adventure that's guaranteed to be funny. Or not. This week the two men welcome a special guest all the way from the UK. Matt Lunnemann.
Welcome to another episode of the Two Men. Oh, go ahead. If you're going to do it,
No,
do it.
you
do it.
You're better at
Do it.
You do
Welcome to another episode of the Two Man Podcast.
That's Matt, who nobody knows.
Thank you, Matt, for welcoming our audience. Everybody, this is our friend, Matt. Welcome to the podcast, Matt.
Thank you.
You going to say his last name, or is he just going to be Matt?
I'm an enigma wrapped up in a mystery.
He was in a show with us.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Matt Lunnemann.
There we are.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's our guest.
he is our guest. Our first guest.
Yes.
Maybe not our last.
We'll see. We'll see how you do. There's no
Good,
expectation.
good. I mean, at this point, I'm hoping for a job as your official foreign correspondent.
Oh.
I like that.
Mhm.
I like that.
Because I am foreign.
Yes.
We're counting on you to bring in the viewers. Right now, we really, you should be Chinese because
Yes.
that's the, other than the United States, that's where we get the most hits for our podcast.
I think
We
that
really
makes...
need to learn some Chinese.
Cici? Isn't that Chinese?
No, I think
That's Italian, isn't it?
You're
depends
probably
on your
right.
accent. CC.
Cici. There's some phrase, because I did some work for the Chinese government.
Really?
Are you a spy, Phil?
No, but I did feel as though that the people coming here that were working for the Chinese government felt some pressure to perform lest they get in trouble by the Chinese government.
Fair.
Trouble you don't want to be in.
No.
Yeah. So, what's the title of today's show? I'm telling you now because you don't know.
We haven't discussed this at all.
No,
No,
not
we
at
really
all.
haven't.
But Matt,
I don't
He's
know
good.
if you can tell from his voice that he is not an American.
Indeed. I'm in fact Russian.
is that I don't even know what that is. All right, is that a drink?
A Russian?
A fat? Didn't you say a fat Russian?
A
No.
fat Russian.
I am in fact Russian.
Oh, you said in fact Russian. I thought you said a fat Russian, which made no sense to me. I thought it was a drink. No, apparently not. But isn't there
A
is
white Russian is a drink,
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew.
as
there-
is a black Russian.
A fat Russian would be a white Russian with a pork chop in it.
Yes.
Oh,
Mm.
so
Oh,
what's
that
it?
sounds awful. Can't believe I even said that. That is the
A popular beverage in Britain, though.
I can't.
See,
I'm ashamed of myself for even uttering those words.
here's the thing. I love it when this kind of stuff happens because this ensures that Tim will edit the podcast.
It really does. I gotta cut that out. I sound like an idiot.
Because
I mean, that's
anything-
like something Elvis would drink. He'd like have a white Russian and just like dip a pork chop in it.
The title of today's podcast is "What's Wrong with America."
Oh my God.
So that's where we're gonna
How
go.
long have we got?
I don't know. This could be a long one.
I don't know. We'll just limit it. Let's say you had 10 minutes. We're just supposing
Suppose.
we might go over. You had 10 minutes to tell the world what was wrong with America. What would you say, or what was right? But let's go with what's wrong because that's probably funnier.
What's wrong?
I think the food. I
Mhm.
think there is definitely something wrong with American food. I'll give you an example.
Right.
So myself and my wife went to a restaurant relatively recently, and we're looking at the menu, and on the kind of options for vegetables you can have was banana pudding.
Mhm.
My assertion is that is not a vegetable.
Yeah,
No,
it'd be a fruitable.
Fruitable indeed.
And I'm also suggesting that it would not normally be something you'd have as a side dish to your main course, your entree, right?
Probably not.
No.
And yet this restaurant decided to put it in the same place as green beans, fried okra, like that kind of stuff.
I assumed you were just going to say that every option was a potato.
Well, no, because we have that in Britain too. I mean, we will do potato a million different ways.
Yeah.
But we would never put banana pudding as a vegetable.
Yeah. So, what's wrong with America? I'm not sure that democracy works.
Okay,
Fair enough.
fair.
I mean,
It's a leap.
I think it's becoming more and more accurate every day.
do you think that everybody should participate, or do you think that only certain people should participate in government?
Are you advocating an IQ test?
I don't know. There are times when I think that maybe the ruling classes had it right when only people they were really saying only people of power, but only certain people who have a certain degree of IQ or intelligence about the material should have a say. And then there's the other part of me that says, no, everybody should participate. But then there's a lot of people who aren't particularly well informed.
I mean, I kind of get what you're saying. Like, but being someone who's from Britain,
Yeah.
and historically it was only the
Aristocracy.
that could participate.
Indeed.
If you've seen some of the members of the British aristocracy,
Mm-hmm.
you would not cast them as educated or intelligent people.
Right.
Some of them don't have a lower jaw.
Mm.
All of them, in fact.
Inbreeding has done away with it. It's terrible.
Yeah.
They're all related now, and not particularly smart.
So let me ask you about the whole British Parliament thing, which shows up on our C-SPAN every once in a while. They seem to be rowdy.
They are. They like yelling at
mean,
each other.
How does that work? Because it doesn't look like it's parliamentary procedure there. It doesn't look like it's. It looks like a lot of yelling.
There is a lot of yelling, but mainly it's people going, "Here, here," or "No, boo." That happens a lot. There's a person called the Speaker of the House, whose job it is to maintain order, and not the current one, but historically people have been thrown out of the House of Commons for calling another member of Parliament a hamster. So there are very specific things you're allowed to do and can't do.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like chaos, but supposedly isn't.
So it's the House of Commons?
Mhm.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's the House of Commons is what you probably have seen on television.
Right. The House of Lords is just a bunch of old rich people napping.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, there are so many members of the House of Lords now that they can't all fit in the chamber.
So is that a fancy name for House of Representatives and Senators?
Kinda, yeah. But we
Sort
have 800 members of the House of Lords or something like that.
Wow.
And not all of them turn up. It's basically if you've been given a peerage, which you normally get through being a major political donor, you then get to have a seat in the House of Lords.
What's a peerage?
A lord.
A peerage is a lord?
Yeah, if I gave you a peerage, not that I can, but say I was the Queen.
I thought every British person could.
I mean, we are all
I mean,
royalty.
that's part of the reason why I'm friends with you,
Yes.
because I'm hoping to become
You
a
were
lord.
hoping for a knighthood.
I really was.
You can order them on the internet. I'll show you later.
Oh, that would be fantastic.
We should become lords.
I would like that because then we could change our podcast.
Ooh.
If the Queen doesn't knight you, because doesn't the Queen have to knight you?
Well, no, then you're a knight.
Yeah, that's different.
That's a different thing.
Oh, doesn't a lord trump a knight?
Yes,
Okay, a lord trumps a knight.
but you can be both a lord and a knight.
Okay.
You could have a lordship and a knighthood. But
Character,
you'd still be lord something because lord is higher, so you only use the highest title.
Mhm.
So you'd
Was
be
it-
lord something.
Wasn't
Kind of.
Voldemort a lord?
Lord Voldemort?
Yeah.
Yes, but I don't think he was given a peerage by the Queen.
I'm fairly sure the Queen really didn't
Well, then
chime in on the Dark
how-
Lord there.
How dare he?
Darth Vader is another one that the Queen did not knight.
Well, see, isn't that Darth Vader Lord of the Sith? Right.
Yeah. he's
Lord of the Sith.
Not Lord of the Dance.
Lord of the Dance, again,
It's
not
different.
a peerage from the Queen.
No.
So by peerage, what we mean is somebody says, I'm highfalutin, and you're my peer now.
Yeah, basically.
So you're equal to me. So
No.
you were lower, and I've upped you.
Yeah, because we have like a class system which you don't have here.
Mm-hmm.
You just have rich people and everybody else.
We have the oppressed.
That's-
yeah,
Do you
the
have
rich
to be-
people and the oppressed.
Yeah.
You have
Whereas
to be
we've
a
got
property owner to be a lord.
well, traditionally, yes.
Okay.
However, you don't really anymore. So you can be given a lordship of somewhere, not owning anywhere there. And you can normally, if you're nominated for a peerage, you can normally ask to be peer of somewhere. And if no one else is, then you get to be the Lord of
I want to find the
Croydon, for
the
example, which is where I'm
rudest
from.
location in Britain that we.
But
can
we
become
could be a
lords of.
lord. You're telling me we could be a lord if
Alright,
we paid enough money.
We could go. It's not even a lot of money because in Scotland, a lord is just the name of the landowner. So you can go on the internet and buy like a square foot of,
All
of
right.
land in Scotland.
We're
And
definitely
therefore-
doing
we're
this.
doing that.
We're doing
yeah,
this.
right.
Yeah.
And then you can become Lord Powell.
Now, do we have to design our own banner and such?
You
I mean,
you
was
can
that-
you can do all of those
Oh,
things.
we
Yes.
need a coat of arms.
Well, that's a different thing. To have a coat of arms, you have to register it with the. I want to say the Lord of the Rolls or something like that. There is someone whose job it is to register the coats of arms of people.
Wow.
Now, what I want to know is, where do we fall in the line of succession for the throne? Then, at that point,
What if you're a lord?
Yeah.
I mean, how
to-
many people would have to die for Phil and I to become
Co-king.
co-kings of England?
Co-king. Mm-hmm.
Co-king.
I was going to say king and queen, but
We're flexible.
Yeah, I mean, we're
you
willing.
have to be.
That's pretty good.
That was nice. That's
Yeah.
very nice.
I think. I mean,
I can't
this is
imagine-
difficult. This is difficult for
wait a
me because
minute.
I'm, a
I-
staunch monarchist.
I can't imagine the pressure that Tim would put upon me to produce an heir.
It's really. I mean, we can't leave the seat empty after we die. I mean, we have to have an heir.
It would be like, all
the
right,
throne, please.
I don't know how we're doing this, but
We have to produce. We have to keep the lineage alive.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think you'd probably still be quite a long way down the list.
That's a shame.
Yeah. I mean,
So
you're
we're
probably
talking
more
machine
deserving
gun.
than some people, but
Yeah.
unfortunately,
Somewhere Charles is crying.
yeah.
So do the British people feel sorry for Charles that he hasn't been king, or no?
No, I mean,
I don't really think so.
nobody likes him.
Really? Okay.
I think generally in Britain, and in fact the rest of the world, most people would prefer that when Liz dies, because we're like that. We're kind of close, so I can call her Liz.
Yeah, right.
Right.
When she dies, we'll get the job, and we'll just bypass Charles entirely. There are some suggestions that the Queen is basically staying alive to provide to stop Charles getting the job. Because she's an elderly lady now, and
She's
you know.
what, 93?
Yeah, well, I mean, and
94?
it appears that the government is doing its best to kill her because her last jubilee, they made her stand out in the rain for 4 hours
What?
watching
Right.
some boats.
That poor old lady.
And she's an elderly lady, and bless her.
You got to figure Charles he's what, in his 60s? I
Mhm.
mean, he's not a youngster. At this point in his career, he wants to go to bed early. So, I mean, I would think that he really only would want to be king like from 8 a.m. to around
You
noon.
mean, like, king is like a part-time job?
Yeah,
Are you saying a job share of some sort?
yeah, he really would want the whole
That
thing.
might be a situation where we could, like, help.
Right, like if
Uh,
we
we
were
could-
lords.
We could do, like, the third shift kinghood.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is one of you can kind of be king from, I don't know, say 8 p.m. until midnight. The other one of you can take the midnight until
to
sort
6 a.m.?
of 6 a.m.
Yeah.
shift, and then
Right.
then
So,
normal service can
To
resume.
give, Charles a break, so he can do his routine.
I think that's only fair.
So
That,
racially insensitive
actually, I
thing.
think you would probably be better suited for the Prince Philip job. I think I would be better as
Have,
Liz.
have we just declared you the queen?
I think we have.
Good, right?
I think
just
we have.
checking.
Fine.
I like the corgis, so, I'm...
Yeah, I think that's
and,
sensible.
And hats. I like
I
hats.
do know that the queen always carries cash on her,
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I like that.
but I don't know why. Because
Well,
she always has a handbag, and in it supposedly is always some cash.
I'm
But
assuming
none
it's
of us can
for-
work out what it's for.
Well, it's for ID purposes, right? Her face is on it.
Yeah,
Well, that's
exactly.
right.
I mean, if anyone has
And
a
it's-
question, she can just flash.
It's
Well,
gonna
you're
be
saying when
recent-
she wants to
pound
get
at
service
them.
in like at a bar,
Mm-hmm.
she just goes.
I say. Yeah.
No, I meant when she's ID'd.
Oh, yes,
Yeah, yeah.
yes. Oh,
Yeah,
of course.
Are you old enough to buy this tequila, Your Majesty?
So technically speaking, if the queen ordered you to jump rope until you died, would you have to do it?
Yes. Yes. I mean that is how it works.
Okay. I just didn't know.
I'm going to confess this now. I really struggled in Britain. I mean, part of the reason I moved was because mailing stuff was quite difficult.
Mm.
because, you know, I am a staunch monarchist, and you might know that the Queen is on all British stamps. And as a staunch monarchist, I've always felt uneasy about licking the back of the Queen's head, no matter how reverentially it was done. I didn't like it.
What is a staunch monarchist? What is that?
I'm a solid supporter of the Queen.
So whatever she does, I'm good with. Off of this head,
I mean, she doesn't.
I'm good with
she
it.
doesn't do a lot.
I think
She's
we established that already.
mainly there as an American tourist attraction.
You know what? That's probably it.
I mean, People magazine has to write about something.
I mean, I have seen the Queen on television here more than I ever did at home. And, you know, you guys quite like her.
I think it's like the idea. I think we've got the whole idea of a democracy, which we've fallen out of love with. And I think as a consequence, the idea of, although we know you don't have an aristocracy, we
do.
Well, you do?
We've still got,
But what kind of power does the Queen have? Could she declare war?
in theory, because we don't have a written constitution like you guys do. So we kind of just make it up as we go along. And in theory, the Queen can decide to do all sorts of things. In reality, the Queen doesn't do those things.
So
But she could.
She could.
In theory. But if she tried to, they'd
They'd
declare
execute
her
her.
not Queen.
Well, it would be a quick way to find out that the Queen doesn't really have much power then. I mean, that's really the thing that keeps her from doing anything too out there, is because she wants to maintain
The bubble.
that image of power.
And it's part of the kind of tradition of Britain. I mean, but we do have an aristocracy insofar as, like, the Duke of Westminster is one of the largest landlords in London, because he owns most of Mayfair and all the posh bits of London. So there are still kind of proper aristocracy in Britain. It's just there are less of them, and they wear less silly wigs.
I was taught that people wore those wigs to hide lice. Is that true?
I mean,
Probably
lack
of hair.
Yes, Britain is riddled with lice.
Well, I don't mean Britain.
I think American democracy would be improved by funny wigs. I think if Congress had to wear powdered wigs again, I think they would probably work together better.
Is that what your current president is doing?
Well, it is
rocking his funny wig.
Pretty funny wig.
He's encouraging
The funny wig. Basically, you're saying he's a trendsetter in terms of a return to.
Maybe
he's a setter.
He's certainly something.
He is certainly something.
So what's wrong with America? What's wrong with America?
You're determined to get us back on subject, aren't you?
I am.
Yeah.
It's his job.
Here's my biggest concern about Great Britain.
Okay.
Are you ever fearful that you don't have enough room to move around? Because in the United States,
we have elbow room.
Yeah, we have elbow room.
You've got a lot of land and not that many people comparatively. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you ever feel claustrophobic?
No, I mean, but that's because in Britain we don't feel the need to talk to one another. So you just kind of pretend that, particularly where I'm from in London, you just kind of pretend that nobody else exists.
Yeah.
You know, so you can be very close to someone, but as long as you just ignore them and pretend they're not there.
Is that what you're doing right now?
I mean, you're not here.
No. I'd like to point out in the behind-the-scenes kind of thing, Matt and I are sharing a microphone today, and we are very close.
Tim's sitting on my lap.
I may be. And he's as a British person, it's making you deeply uncomfortable, isn't it?
Deeply, deeply uncomfortable.
What would happen if I like touched your face or something right now? Would that bother you?
With that, it would.
No.
All right. Now, I want to point out that if you two started making out right now, that I would not find that arousing. I'm sorry. You know, I apologize.
I accept that
now,
apology.
in fairness, though, if you went at it, you know, I'd have to give you at least a minute and a half before I could gauge.
Levels?
I respect that you're willing to give it a chance.
Yes,
you're willing to work the bit, see if it goes and translates.
Yes, yeah. I think that's only fair. I mean, you know, because your initial reaction might. Well, I'm going to tell you, it's going to be negative. I mean, if you started to make out, it would be negative.
Yeah.
But that's really not. That you got to. It's like coffee. you got to push past your, that initial, negative taste in your mouth, and get to the good stuff.
I mean, I would worry more about the Velcro effect.
What?
Well, because both you and me, Tim, are men with beards.
That is true.
And what concerns me is that, much like Velcro, once we were cemented together, it'd be very difficult to pry us apart.
Yes.
This podcast has taken a very, very strange turn.
So what's wrong with America?
I
All of a
think
sudden,
Phil might be
all
what's
of a
wrong with
sudden-
America.
All of a sudden, Matt wants to stay on topic.
That's how Phil
I
does
tell you,
it.
I can tell you what's right with America.
Oh, good.
Okay,
This-
good.
This isn't.
We need some good news.
This isn't funny, but
I mean,
Great.
why start now?
Hey, Matt, thanks.
That's why we invited you on this podcast, Matt. We wanted to make sure it was not funny.
I don't. I'm not sure whether the two of you saw this, but myself and my wife met the nicest man on the planet last week. And I would say this would only happen because, as I said, in Britain we ignore one another. In America, my wife's tire blew out on the highway, and a man came and rescued her. He drove past her, turned around, came back, changed her wheel for her, and then gave her money to go and get new tires and drove off. That would never happen in Britain. No one is that nice in Britain. So I'm falling in love slightly with America recently.
That's kind of a Southern thing. I would be
That
curious.
is,
I would
yeah.
be curious to know if the guy had a more of a pronounced Southern accent, because that is kind of what I would call. I mean, I was taught, as a young man, that if a lady were in distress, that's how they would put it.
Yeah.
If a lady was in distress, you were to stop and to, although I could not change a flat tire, so that I would be
You'd
really
be there for moral support.
That's right. I would be there for entertainment purposes.
Exactly.
It's not many ladies broken down on the side of the road need a lot of entertainment.
Yes.
It's just to distract them while we wait for a real man to arrive.
Or I'm not going to be good, as I've always said, as a protector. So nobody's going to drive, go, oh, I would rob them, but now that I see that Phil's there, I'm going to not do that. I'm actually just I've added to the potential that we'll both be victims by standing next to her. I've increased the likelihood. I'm not intimidating, other than vocally. I think I'm vocally intimidating.
I think you overestimate yourself.
Yeah.
That's just because you're a vocal intimidator as well.
I just think that's true.
To be fair, Phil, we've both been directed by you, and
Yeah.
I can safely say that neither one of us were intimidated during that entire process.
Not at all.
Well, then I was not bringing my A game.
You need to step it up.
I tell you what, I did not do my job.
Well, I mean,
We should have done like a Bobby Knight and thrown a chair or something.
Are you saying you can be louder than me?
no, we're
No,
just
no,
saying
no.
you're not particularly intimidating.
I don't find you frightening.
Volume isn't necessarily a scary thing.
No.
You haven't been on the other end of my volume stick.
And we're back to Tim and Phil making an heir for the throne again.
Uh-huh,
Yeah.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
So, Tim, you going to contribute to this podcast at all?
Not really. I'm just really an interested bystander at this point.
All right.
A victim.
I feel like a victim. Yeah.
Maybe you could start a survivors group.
Survivor. Well, I mean that's you're going to be our first member as a guest on the podcast. We consider you a survivor of our podcast.
This is it.
I mean,
This is as good as it gets.
This is what Tim and I do.
Now you know.
Can we do a line of merchandising that has T-shirts? I survived the Two Men podcast.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
sure. Absolutely.
You can merchandise anything now, as I understand it.
Yeah, I mean, at this rate, we could turn it into a Hollywood movie like that.
Are Americans loud?
Yeah, for the love of
Oh,
God, yes.
God, yeah.
All right.
There's a level of enthusiasm in America that just exists nowhere else on the planet. You can't mention the word America to an American without, like a room full of people, without at least one of them going, woo! You just can't do it. Wherever they are, they get very excited about everything they see. And
Right.
and I find that endearing, but is completely the opposite to where I'm from.
How do you feel about football?
We're talking about American football.
I got that.
Real
no,
football.
but I mean, didn't you guys used to call it football? Or wait a minute, no, you used to call it
what?
soccer.
No, we have football.
I understand the whole thing, but didn't you?
That's rugby, right?
No,
We have, because that is also football, yeah. We have rugby football, association football, which is soccer. You know.
But I'm pretty sure that you used to call it soccer, and that you changed it to football when we had the war.
I think you might have made
What?
that up.
I think that's not a true fact.
As far as I'm aware, it's traditionally called association football.
I can understand why people, because I played soccer in high school, football,
Right.
okay, and it was not popular. People didn't like it, and it was the only thing I was good at, coincidentally, which makes me bitter.
You do have an air of David Beckham about you.
Yes,
Oh, really? Yeah.
yes,
That's very true.
or one of the Spice Girls.
Oh,
but
Victoria
not-
Beckham.
I don't think they ever played soccer.
but they were around football players, as I understand it. I don't know. I'm making that up. I just
Well,
I-
one
you
of
know,
them
I'm just-
married a soccer player.
Right,
yes.
right. So what was their big song?
Wannabe, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, sing it. What? I don't know it.
No.
Wait a minute.
That was the
I will-
weakest ploy I've ever heard.
I will sing whatever you want.
Will
So,
you really?
I'll sing "Walking After Midnight."
I
I was walking after midnight.
I think you should do
I'm not saying it's
do the
good.
national anthem instead.
And the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air. There we are.
I wanted to
Wow.
point out what I said earlier about the level of enthusiasm.
yeah.
You'll notice that as soon as the
That was a
anthem
lot of
came on,
enthusiasm.
Phil couldn't help it. The flags came down. In his head, the confetti went up. He, hand on heart, he got very excited.
Well, to be fair, Phil's a born performer. I mean, he really any chance he gets to show off, he will.
Mhm.
That's right.
I like the phrase "born performer" because it's just a polite theatrical term for meaning show off.
he really is.
Yeah, I say
Yeah.
that's fair. Well, it mostly has to do with whatever your talents are, because you wouldn't say like somebody who's good at soccer, football, when they score a goal, you don't go show off with your talent, scoring a goal.
I mean, a lot of people do. I mean,
Uh,
just think in Britain we're quite self-deprecating.
Okay.
So, like, the correct thing to do in Britain is if someone says, "Oh, you were really good in that," or "That was great, you did that thing," you just go, "Oh, it wasn't a big deal."
Oh, okay.
Whereas Americans will be like, "Yeah, I rock, woo!"
See, that's good.
That was my American accent, by the way.
That was very nice.
I believed it. And now I respect you way more that you said that about yourself.
So, are we saying that we just made him an honorary American?
I think we have. I think that was
great.
it. That was the moment.
That was it.
That was
right?
the moment right there that Matt truly became an American.
Good.
You
When
you transitioned.
Yeah, he's a man in transition.
I feel more patriotic already.
I'm so pleased.
I think that's an episode.
I think that is. That's very good. Phil and I became lords, and Matt became an American.
Yes, we did.
What more could you want out of a podcast?
I don't know.
Well, thank you for listening, everybody. I hope it wasn't too painful. Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
It's time for Instant Opinion.
It is that time.
And this is a game where Tim and I will be given a word, and we will have 10 seconds-ish to render an
Ish.
instant opinion. And who's going to give us our words?
I am Matt Lunnemann.
All right.
And we're going to have a special British edition of Instant Opinion.
Ooh, that is exciting.
Yeah.
We're ready.
Okay. Your first British term is kerfuffle.
Kerfuffle.
Sounds like a bunny or a fight.
It sounds like something similar to a s'more. Like you would you'd roast over a kerfuffle over a fire,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what we think it is.
All mouth and no trousers.
That's the president. I mean, not that I'm getting political.
He's all tweet and no trousers. That's
right.
the president.
Isn't that when you're the boss of the house? You're the boss of the house, or you don't walk the walk? That's what
So
they're
you're
saying.
like the Al Bundy.
Our listeners won't know who. Well, no, our listeners will know.
Our listeners will. You don't.
Will our listeners in Japan know who that is? No, China.
China.
Yeah. All right.
Haven't you got both?
Yeah, we do have both. Mostly in China.
Miffed.
Miffed. I think I know that word. I think that's an
I
English word.
think that's your standard operating procedure whenever you're directing a show.
That's right. I miffed.
He's generally miffed.
That you didn't do it like me. That's basically my standard. Because it is so bloody obvious. See, I cursed in English.
You did curse in
Ooh,
English.
that's impressive.
Oh. Sot? Is that also cursing?
No, it just means
That's
a drunk.
sots.
That's
Yeah.
a really old-fashioned word for a drunk person. Sod.
Sot. Sot.
No, duh.
Sod.
Sod.
So like turf?
Same
yeah.
spelling.
Okay.
Shufty.
Shifty.
Shifty.
Spelt with a U.
Someone shifty?
No, I think that would be just shifty.
But if you're shifty, that's past tense.
Maybe shufty is like a fat, shifty person.
Yeah. I buy that.
Yeah. Someone who's very shufty.
With a
Like,
pork chop?
like husky.
Gaffer.
Gaffa?
Gaffa.
Mm-hmm.
Gaffa.
Is that like a Gaffa cake?
A gaffa?
Is that?
That sounds like a royal term, like a gaffa. That sounds. You would hear that on Lion King.
Gaffa?
I think you're thinking of
That
Mustafa.
I think so.
That's what I'm saying. But you would hear that. You
Mufasa.
Gaffa was the bird,
like
right?
at the
Played by Rowan Atkinson.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you intentionally getting these wrong? Because I kind of feel like you might be. Or are you really this dumb?
I think so.
Okay.
I would say that's.
I would say that's a perfectly accurate description.
Okay.
That's what I'm doing.
And I'm not like slagging you off. I am equally dumb. I was
going to say you have the.
I thought you were smarter than me.
No.
Okay.
You have the opportunity to interject yourself in a more correct position at
No,
any
no,
time.
I'm fine with your ignorance.
All right. I'd say you're more than fine.
I'm comfortable with the amount of ignorance on display from you.
All right.
Doofer.
Doofa.
It's not a loofah.
No, it's not a loofah. Maybe it's a loofah for two.
Yeah.
A doofa.
Oh, so
Like if you're like doing tandem bathing,
yeah.
so you need a doofa. A loofah is only for one person.
But they probably have Groupons for that.
Do they have Groupons for doofas?
That's a groofer.
That's a groofa. That's a Mormon loofah. It's for groofa.
All right. We've officially entered pun territory. I in no way endorse puns of any kind. I distance myself from this episode. I distance myself from this episode.
You would have to move to China to be far enough away from this episode.
This podcast is dead to me.
Oh my god. Okay. Next. I'm good.
This is not that funny.
I'm good. I'm sorry.
This is the thing. It's like, it's funny. It's not that funny.
Not
All
that
right.
funny.
All right, moving on.
Reel it in.
Fortnight.
Fortnite. You don't have to say it with an accent. It's fine without.
All right.
Okay.
Sorry, I'll stop it.
What is a fortnight?
It's more than one night.
It's at least four.
But this is N-I-T-E, correct? Not like a night, like of the Templar.
So you're saying that it's like a knight that's in a fort?
It could be. Don't limit my imagination.
I wouldn't dare.
I wouldn't dare at all. No, I agree.
Finally. Ruby Murray.
Ruby Murray.
Not a Ruby Tuesday.
Never.
That's a restaurant here.
That is a restaurant here. Also a song by the Rolling Stones.
Oh. I'm surprised they got to name it a restaurant, considering that it was a song.
I think that's why they named the restaurant.
Probably they got sued by the Stones.
We should probably restart this because we haven't said a thing about Ruby Murray.
I like it.
You like...
That's all we got to say.
That's all we got. We like Ruby Murray. So with that, that brings to a close another podcast. You have spent another half hour or so of your time with us.
God bless you.
The two men, two and a.
0.5.
Well, no,
2
he's
point-
not. He's not a half. He's more than a man because he's taller than both of us.
So what you're saying is it's now 3.25.
3.3 and a quarter men.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
I'll go with that.
Good.
You get 1.5, but that means you have more responsibility.
Ha! Yeah.
Oh, right. You'll be editing.
Your responsibility is to get us listeners in England. So thank you, everybody, for spending time with us. If you've enjoyed your time with us, please make sure you spread the love, tell it to a friend, get them to listen to our podcast. And from me, Tim.
And me, Phil.
And me, Matt.
Bye.
Greetings. I am Alice, highly paid digital assistant to the two moderately entertaining nerds of the Two Men podcast. Want to let us know what you thought of the show? Have a topic you'd like to hear discussed? Feel like demanding your money back? We'd love to hear from you on 2 out of those 3 questions. Drop us an email at twomencast@gmail.com. In the meantime, please rate us and leave a review on iTunes or your podcast service of choice. Also, for all discussions moderately entertaining, you can find us at facebook.com/2mencast. Please join us again next week when we'll be guaranteed to be funny. Or not.